what they're constantly trying to do is to minimise their liability in the compensation system rather than about sustaining and caring for their workforce. And I think the interesting thing within our community is that we have a much, I think, more sort of beneficent view of our members of our armed services, which we don't show to our police and fire officers. And, I think particularly, for example, in South Australia, I think there's been a degradation in the protection that they get within the occupational health systems because of the changes to the workers' compensation legislation. And I think the broader community has been caught up in the belief that workers' compensation leads to fraud. Now, certainly there are fraudulent cases, but there's some evidence that compensation actually makes no difference to the outcomes of people's health. And we've got to remember that the biggest defendant, the person who's got most to lose in workers' compensation cases, is actually the government. And yet they legislate it. So the government has a complete conflict of interest when it comes to the fire, ambulance and police. And I think there needs to be far greater independent scrutiny of the needs of those people, because one of the reasons why you get corruption in police is because they're not being looked after properly by the system. So we've got a lot to lose if we don't care for the police and these groups.